Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please allow me to inform you on how to call into the shows you are hearing on Pyramid One Worldwide Radio Network. Once the show starts, just dial 843-300-1399. Again, that number is 843-300-1399. Also, you can write the shows by just writing new questions in the chat room. The hosts and guests can see these, and all of the questions will also be forwarded to the host and guests. Please enjoy the show and voyage into subjects you are about to begin.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension.
Bob Charles.
Oh yeah, you got the Bob Charles Show.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
Bob Charles.
The secret of the technology used in the crystal skulls has still not been unraveled.
Don't forget, it's our world. Start taking care of it. It's time to think for yourself.
Bob Charles.
Open your heart to reality and to all the misinformation you hear. Just say no.
This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation. Hi, and welcome to the Bob Charles Show right here on Pyramid One Radio Network. Let me tell you about the guest coming up. Her name is Elena Mannes. She wrote a book called Soul Dog. The book is an exploration of animal spirituality and the ability of animals to even communicate with humans, even in afterlife. The book chronicles the author's profound relationship with her dog, Brio, his ability to read her mind and emotions, and the message she received from him after his death. The book shares the author's research with animal communicators, psychics, and scientists specializing in animal intelligence, such as Rupert Sheldrake. It explores animals' thoughts and feelings, interspecies communication and telepathy, animal souls in the afterlife, and animal reincarnation, and much more. Looking for companionship after a near-fatal car crash, Elena Mannes, an award-winning television journalist and producer, decided to get her first dog. But what she found with her dog, Brio, shook the foundations of her physical and spiritual worlds, sending her on a quest to discover the nature of spiritual origins, and to contemplate and seek out the possibility of interspecies communication, even after death. Soon after bringing her puppy home, Mannes realized that the master-companion relationship would not be possible with Brio, who quickly showed that he had a mind, he had a spirit, and it was all his. A healer Mannes visited immediately focused on Brio, exclaiming he was an old soul. Mannes' growing curiosity about the intelligence, emotions, and consciousness of Brio and other dogs led her to contact an animal psychic in California, who described with amazing accuracy Brio's favorite walks and the author's apartment from the dog's point of view. And we're going to talk about this and so much more. It will glue you to your chair. I'd like to introduce right now to the world, to the universe, and to Brio, that's probably here with us right now listening, Elena Mannes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah, you're there.
thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm telling you, know what? It's an honor having you on the show. We've had animal communicators, we've had psychics, you name it. I mean, we've talked to animals over the phone for people to call in
I believe you.
to their animal, and I mean, this is something that we excel in, and that is bringing this to people so that people can understand that animal that's standing next to them is actually communicating with them all the time. It doesn't stop. It's a 24/7 thing with an animal, but be it a bird, cat, cockroach. It doesn't matter. They all have minds, they all have souls of their own, and they all want to communicate. And in your book, you've put the whole thing together so that people can understand what the feelings are to someone having a dog, an animal, put it that way, that can actually communicate from the other side. And that is that is an awesome ability.
Well, it was certainly a journey and a big transformation for me, because when I came into this experience of a relationship with Brio, it was my first dog, I came in as a real skeptic. I really had never thought about communicating with another species, and I was a skeptic about anything that couldn't be proven by empirical fact. I was a television journalist, so I decided to get a puppy for comfort and companionship, as many people do, but I thought of it really as he would be a pet who was more or less at my beck and call, and I would get training, and it would be very orderly, and he'd do everything I asked him to do or wanted him to do, and my life wouldn't change much. But all of that proved not to be true.
I read all your background on your background as being a journalist and many, many more things in that about you, and you can get into them later. But it's funny. It's easier talking to the animal than it is talking to the people that you interview as a journalist.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, I now know it's true after this experience, because animals are direct.
That's right.
They tell the truth.
They tell you, and you can tell me whether I'm wrong or not, but they actually tell you exactly what's on their mind, exactly when it's on their mind. Like, bam, right there. They don't care whether you're listening or not. They're going to tell you anyway.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think many animal lovers recognize that if you live with an animal. But I also think, there are depths to our animals that we haven't always discovered. I certainly had not until I was opened up to a new way of looking at animals and a new way of communicating that didn't have much to do with our physical senses, our ordinary human five senses.
Actually, we got six. if you want to stick that one in there too, go ahead. Let's get into some of the background though, because I mean, it was on the promo that I did in the beginning, and that you actually had a near fatal car crash. Was that an NDE?
No, it was not. I was working on a film shoot for a network that I was working for at the time, and it was a triple rollover. And I was not driving, but I was conscious through the whole thing, and I was very, very lucky to come out with just a concussion. But it was certainly a wake-up call that led me to really ask, what I was doing. Is that all there was to life, just working like a demon and getting into car crashes like this? And then I'd had a relationship that, had not ended well. So, I was looking for something else in my life. And I'd always loved animals, but as I said, thought of it as a pet situation. But I decided I would get a standard poodle puppy because I always loved standard poodles because friends of my parents had them. So I went ahead and did that, and as I indicated before, things did not go exactly according to plan. Shall I get into the beginnings of this relationship with my puppy?
I was just going to say that there is a woman here and where all it's like a business complex, and that where the studio is, and she's got a dog that looks just like Brio.
Oh my word!
I mean, it's huge, and she's got this little Toyota, and the dog's tail's out one window and its nose is out the other. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, this thing is huge. And I mean, I had one too, but not that big. I mean, this is a monster. So I said to her, I'm going to lend you this book. I said, so you can understand what's in the back seat of your car, And she said, yeah. She said, I never saw the book. I said, so I gave her the information to go look at the book on Amazon so she could see it. People are, I guess, we have to have a reason to look for a companion. Sometimes it's not the two-legged ones that are the best in the world either. But in a way, the four-legged one is always the one that levels or grounds you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, he certainly leveled and grounded me and taught me so much over the years. But in the beginning, I was really frustrated and almost really kind of despairing that he didn't listen to me all the time. He didn't obey me. I thought maybe he didn't like me. And I felt that this expected bond with my puppy wasn't really happening. And I got help from dog trainers, which did help, but he still was such an independent spirit. And I'll tell a story of one humiliating incident that happened in the park in the city where I was living, New York City. He would take off. He would frequently run away and not come back when I called. So on that day, I was walking backwards, screaming for him to come in desperation. And all of a sudden, I realized that there was no ground beneath my feet. And I had walked backwards over the edge of a boat pond and stepped right into the water. Fortunately, it wasn't too deep, but somebody I knew was at the other end and said to me eventually, said, "Oh my goodness, that was you. I thought that was a homeless person taking a bath." So, excuse me. So there were incidents like that really brought me to the point of wondering how in the world could I understand him better and figure out what he was thinking or feeling, and did he really not like me or what? So I'd heard about these people who called themselves animal communicators. And as a journalist, I did a little research, and I found somebody in California who had a good reputation, and called her up and asked her to read Brio, but I didn't tell her anything about him except his name and breed. So she gave an amazingly accurate reading, as you said in the introduction, describing where I lived and where we walked and his personality. What she said about it rang true, and things about me, so that really piqued my interest. And then from then on, I contacted some other animal communicators to see if they pretty much agreed with the first one. I was still skeptical, so I wanted to sort of check them against each other and see what was going on. And the good ones, or the ones I felt valid to me, did pretty much agree with each other in general terms. So that, I gained more confidence that there was really something going on here that I couldn't explain by ordinary means. I mean, how could they possibly know all this information when this was all by telephone, and they'd never met me, never met the dog. So I couldn't explain it at the time, but I was growing to really see that I had to accept that something was happening that I couldn't explain in physical terms or terms of human senses.
Yeah, but it's something that you I mean, it's not like someone like you and I are talking to each other. It's not something that you audibly hear. It's not an audio signal. It's empath in a sense. You can feel the animal You can feel what they're saying to you, although it's not audio.
Right. Well, I also asked the psychics how they did this, and some of them, it varies from what I learned. Some of them feel something in their bodies. Some of them see images. Some of them actually hear something. Obviously, they don't hear the dog speaking English, but they hear the message, and then they're able to kind of translate it into our verbal language. So
dolphins are interesting animals in that they actually speak to you in English because they know that's what you understand. Imagine. Now
wow.
you have. I want to go into some of the things in here in the book though. It says here your name is Brio. How did you? I mean, did you turn around and just and go from Fido to Brio? Or did he pick
I come from a musical family. My classical musicians, and Brio, and it's a musical term that means gusto, a lot of energy, and I actually kind of picked the name before I ended up with this particular puppy. I mean, at that point I knew it was going to be a boy, although originally I'd wanted a girl, but as fate would have it, the co-breeder took the girl that I had wanted, and the only puppy left was Brio. So when I knew it was a boy, I did pick the name, but I didn't really know much about Brio when I picked the name. But it turned out to be a very appropriate name because he did indeed have a lot of energy and gusto and an incredible spirit.
So he actually became alive to that name.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe he chose it all by himself and put it right in your head and said, "Here, this is my name."
Well, that is very possible and probably likely.
I saw the name in it, and I've got almost 40 years in music. So, I mean, I turned around and I said, "Oh, well, how about Arpeggio or something like that?" I mean, it's like, might as well get him jumping while he's doing it. Okay, then you made a comment on here, and it's a great chapter, by the way. Why doesn't my puppy love me? And I saw that, and I said, we should put this on harmony.com. Why doesn't my puppy love me? I mean, come on. Really, seriously. I mean, I'll give you the shortest story in the world. When I got my dog, that's right here, he's been with us ever since the radio station started. So he's getting to the ends of his days, in a sense. He's been around that long. But when we first got him, he was a rescue dog that was found under a garbage, one of those big carts full of garbage, behind a Burger King in a thunder and lightning storm. That's when they picked him up. So this dog was definitely wired, completely. And what a mess he was. So, okay, I found the dog on the internet. I saw the dog, and every single time I was going through that thing, because we wanted to get another dog. So I'm going through it, his face kept coming on. I kept banging into his face somewhere. So I finally said, no, that's it. That's the dog. So I call the place up. The place tells me, no, we already, somebody already rescued the dog. I said, look, the dog is mine. Call me the second it comes back. And she said to me, she says, well, no, it's a nice family you went to and everything else. It'll be because I was worried about the dog. Well, it turns out the dog went on Christmas, I guess the day before Christmas Day, to an older woman who had all the relatives over and the nephews and everything else. Now, here's a rescue dog getting put into like a Madison Square Garden kind of surrounding and that. Well, it turned out this little dog bit the grandma. So grandma brings it back to the rescue hospital and goes, here. So in minutes they called me up. They said, well, you still want the dog? I said, I'll be right over. So this is I guess it was like January 2nd. And then we picked up the dog. Well, for a month after that, this dog was still so wired that I looked like Jesus Christ. Both of my hands were dripping blood constantly. I'm serious. He bit me to bits until he found out that I wasn't beating him, I wasn't yelling at him, I wasn't doing anything else. I was hugging him, I was kissing him, the whole 9 yards. You know what you do to a puppy,
right?
And he's like the best dog I've ever had in my whole life.
That's a wonderful story.
He just snapped, and that was it. He was like, oh, I'm home. You know, it was like one of these kind of things. And he's been like that ever since. And people get dogs all the time, and they figure, no, he's too wired for me. He's too this, he's too that. It takes a ton of patience, and that's the beginning thing that you have in communication. And your book explains it. It doesn't actually come out and say, you got to get bit up first, but, it does come out, and it does say that you have to have a relationship with your animal.
Yes, and you really work at it and intend to try to understand them, him or her. I mean, it's funny because, initially that's why I decided on this girl, this Brio's sister, because when I first saw the litter, Brio immediately, he really did kind of choose me. I mean, he was the one who trotted up to me and waved his paw, and, I was kind of drawn to him, but I thought, oh no, this one's going to be too much for me. I can't handle that, so I'm going to take the girl. It was quiet. But fate and Brio intervened, as I said, and the breeder took the girl, and Brio was the last puppy left. So he came home with me. But I truly believe now that it was meant to be, that he came to me for a reason, to help me through a certain period in my life and teach me things and transform me, really.
Excuse me while I check.
So I'll talk more for a minute. Once I got into the psychics, I was working, as I said, for a television network at the time, so I persuaded them to do a story about animal intelligence, and part of it included a section on animal psychics and telepathy. So we actually brought a psychic to read Diane Sawyer's dog, not knowing anything about the dog.
Oh, wow.
as usual. So we videotaped the dog at Diane's house. The psychic was not present, but we followed the dog walking around the yard and in the house. And the psychic was then flown to New York and ultimately met the dog, still not knowing anything. And first of all, she came up with many points about what she heard from the dog, one of which was that he was scared of a memory he had about spinning and falling. And Diane said that actually he had fallen into a swimming pool when he was a puppy, which was pretty accurate. And then the psychic described Diane's house and yard from the dog's point of view and what the dog did in the yard, where he went, similar to that initial reading with Brio. And again, it was amazingly accurate. I mean, you could see on the video that the dog was doing exactly what the psychic described. And she hadn't known anything about the dog or the house or the yard or anything. So all of this was really kept convincing me that, there really was a lot of evidence here that there was, they really could connect with the other species.
But you didn't wind up though with the sister.
No, I didn't.
Fool.
I didn't. I couldn't take the sister because the co-breeder took the sister. I mean, I told the breeder I would take the sister and not Brio, but then the sister was given to the co-breeder, so Brio was the last puppy left, so I took him.
Wow. And excuse me, by the way, World, for drinking my water and almost drowning.
Oh, I understand.
That's terrible. I mean, I saw a guy do that on CNN the other day, too, and I was laughing at him, and here I am laughing at me.
Oh, it happens to me, too, so
there you go.
It happens to all of us, so.
There was something I had in the beginning of the book, and this has been with me, and I've also read it already to I don't know how many people, including hosts and some people that are coming on in January. And I said, what do you think of this? And they were all, I mean, forget about it, blown apart. It's in the beginning of the book. It says, to Brio, yours was the heart I cared for most in this world, and yours was the heart that cared most for me. It is so, I mean, forget about it. I mean, it put a hole in my heart for like 2 seconds.
Well, it's an excerpt from a wonderful poem by the Persian poet Hafiz, translated by Daniel Ladinsky. So it just was so right and so captured how I feel about Brio and what he means to me.
Well, we have, to tell you the truth, we have one. It's her name was Bijou. It's funny, another French name, but these were all Shih Tzus. But see, they're not huge, not monsters. They're just little dogs, but they're like a hell on paws. But she was with us till I guess about 2 years ago, and she finally had gotten cancer, and she had to be put down. She got very, very skinny. She wouldn't eat. She wouldn't drink. I mean, she just withered away to nothing. That dog, every once in a while, things in this house move. In our house. I mean, not the studio, but in our house. And the funny thing is, like we kind of sort of know the things that she used to go around, and it's always that thing, that moves. We found a ball the other day. Now, we moved from South Carolina to Florida, to here. In fact, 3 days before Irma hit, right here. So that was, and we just came from Walter, was it Walter or something that hit South Carolina? We just got hit with it there. Then that fall, we moved here, and then we got hit with Irma. So, I mean, it was like the hurricanes were following us around. But there was a ball that we couldn't find, and it was the one that we used to throw all the time. And, toward her end, of course, these dogs get cataracts, so they can't see that well. But she would smell it out somehow, find the ball, and bring the ball back. Well, we couldn't find it. It was gone. All of a sudden, one day we wake up, and it's in the middle of the living room floor. Now, I wouldn't mind if it was in a corner or behind something or behind a couch or behind the TV or whatever. But it was in the middle of the living room floor. So what do you think that animal was trying to tell us? I'm here.
That she was here and that she's here.
Exactly. That's what these animals are doing. And yours is doing the same thing. Probably, as I said, she's probably right here, right now.
I believe he is. I mean, several interviews I've done, people have said they feel his presence. So, but I mean, that was one of the most amazing parts of my whole experience, that the messages and the connection with Brio continued after he had physically passed. And, through the animal communicators, he would describe what I was doing the day before and precisely where I was sitting and experiences I had, like a smoky fire in a restaurant, and where he was sitting, quote unquote, in my house. I mean, again, the communicators, never met me, never met him, never been in my house. He was saying that he's here. And then I had an experience shortly after he had passed. I was driving on a highway and merging from the right to the left into the thruway. And Brio had always ridden in the back seat, and all of a sudden I hear his tags clanking. I mean, it was a very precise sound, and there was nothing in the car that would have created that sound. So I turn around to sort of look over my right shoulder, and I see, of course I don't see Brio physically, but I see a huge tractor trailer bearing down on me from where I was going to merge. And if I had not turned around and seen it, I probably would have crashed. And I truly believe that Brio was there and created that sound and probably saved my life.
That's your guardian angel right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Absolutely.
But I've learned that it's a fairly common experience that people hear their dogs barking. I interviewed, some very credible people, or they feel the paws on the sofa where the little dog used to walk, things like that. And Rupert Sheldrake, the well-known Cambridge University-trained biologist in England, has done some research on all the anecdotal evidence of this kind of experience. It's called after-death communication, as I'm sure you know. ADC.
Well, let me just say this, though. If anyone in the world, except Malaysia, if you don't say it in English, I can't read it, and Google doesn't want to even do anything with it. So please send it in English next time. But I got a bunch of stuff from Malaysia, and I put it into Google and forget it was gone. What I really, really wanted to let everybody know, that there is a number here that you can call on. It's 843-300-1399. If you want to make a comment, or if you have a question, or if there's something you want to get off your chest, that you have an animal just like ours that has passed and came back, call us. 1-843-300-1399. 300-1399. Plus, you can also write to me. And I do read these. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning reading these things, but I do read them all. Go Bob Charles Show at live.com. It's in the chat room right now, plus all kinds of links in there to get this book. Get it. You got to get it. You got to read this. Now, one of the things that happens to me, Elena, is all right, when our dog Bijou used to sleep with us in bed, the thing that she used to do, and she knew she bugged the heck out of me. She did it just to get me crazy. She'd sneeze in my ear. In bed. I'd be sleeping in the middle of the night. She'd just go poof, right in my ear. Every once in a while that happens. And I know it's nobody in the room and that's sneezing in my ear. Not in two legs anyway. So, I mean, energy doesn't die. It doesn't go away. There is no way that anybody can ever say that when you're gone, you're in the box, you're in the ground. Heck, no. Maybe something else is in the box, but it's not you. You are the spirit that goes and goes and goes and keeps on going. And we have many, many lifetimes. Now, Brio could be in 5 places all at the same time. All at the same time. A soul can be everywhere. Energy can expand. It can be in different places at the same time. It could be in your house while you're with the communicator, communicating with the communicator to tell you that he's there. So how's that? I mean, this is what happens. We don't die. Everybody says death. It sounds like a very hard word. No. I say continuance.
Yeah, that's the biggest gift I think I've been given from this whole experience with Brio, that, obviously changed my whole perspective about life and death and reality, the nature of reality. It's not how it always appears before our human senses, and there are other truths here.
Oh, this is a stage, and we are players. And what I always say is, next. It's like, why not? I've been there, did that.
Not that I want to quite yet, but, it's definitely...
No, it's not. Yeah, exactly. I feel exactly the same way as you do. Not yet, but, but when it does happen, then I'll go, okay, next. Okay, a dance that becomes a song. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that's a chapter that phrase comes from a wonderful border collie handler and author who unfortunately just passed away last week.
Oh boy!
It's very sad. Donald McKay. He was a wonderful writer and wrote wonderful books, including Eminent Dogs, Dangerous Men, about his understanding of dogs and in particular border collies, and he handled them. So he was very generous with me when I asked to come with him to a border collie trial and watch him and watch others handling their dogs. So I did, and I never could have written about it if I had not gone, because it's such a amazing experience to see that connection between the human and the dog, and it goes beyond just the whistles and the voice signals and the body language, all of which help. But McKay definitely agreed that it goes beyond that into what he told me he really feels is a telepathic relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was his description of it as a dance that becomes a song, that it is. I mean, you observe that and it's like music to watch dog and human interact, and it's a kind of indescribable experience.
You ever notice how sometimes dogs actually imitate humans?
Yeah.
They do. They really, really do. I mean, I had a dog, and it was funny because when it was a puppy, and it used to like to stand up on its leg once in a while and beg. So I went around in circles around the dog. All of a sudden, the dog started going around me. Two legs. Standing up. This wasn't a small dog either. This was a spotted pointer that was there. So he was a big dog. They want you to know that they are interacting with you. And Brio is amazing because, I mean, this dog is, I mean, with the book itself in that is very strong because you can feel you talking about the animal and the relationship and the love. That's the biggest of the whole thing. Then again, it's the biggest word in the world. So, multiple sources.
Well, as a journalist, as we know, that's a phrase in journalism that, never believe anything or report anything as fact unless you have multiple sources. So, following that rule, I, set out to talk to other dog people, both people who had dogs, dog trainers, dog handlers like Donald McKay, to gather their experiences and feelings about the possibilities of communicating with dogs telepathically. And as the book reports, I did find, I believe, a significant number of trainers, for example, like Donald McKay and others, who felt that they had telepathic experiences with dogs. Some of them were almost scared. Well, one of them in particular was actually kind of scared by it and never kind of sought out that experience, that kind of connection again.
Oops.
But because it was so stunning to her.
Mm-hmm.
But you can read the book and hear the whole story. And then as I said, I talked to other dog owners, I don't like that term, but people who shared their lives with dogs and had felt that they had developed a telepathic communication with them. And one couple in particular comes to mind that they had what they clearly felt was their soul dog. He was a rescue dog, but they had that kind of connection, and they'd worked with an animal communicator, and they'd actually taken animal communication courses. Mm-hmm. And one day they had the dog in the car in the rear end of like a wagon or an SUV, and they got into a crash. Well, the wife got into a crash, and the back window broke, and the dog escaped. So, of course, they were desperate, but they decided to use what they had learned about animal communication, and they sent images to the dog and the message to go to a safe place and wait for us. So, they sent visual imagery with that message, and then they started driving around the area, the neighborhood near where the crash had occurred, and eventually they come up to this nice house, and there's the dog sitting on the porch, just sitting, waiting. And the person whose house it was said that, she knew this was a special dog somehow, and she didn't want to take him in. She fed him, but she let him just sit on the porch, and they found him.
Well, there you go.
He had received the message.
There you go. And, that could be miles and miles and miles away.
Yeah, and they took them some time. They were driving around and around. And
my mother had, of course, this is during the World War II time, and that they moved to, my father and her moved to Chicago. And when they moved there, they went from New York, Manhattan, to Chicago. They had to leave their dog behind. It was a black Belgian German Shepherd. Big dog. Well, don't you know that about a month later, that dog wound up on their front porch? Okay, now how many miles is it between the one place and the other? Of course, it looked like hell, but, still.
No, there are many stories like that. Dogs who, trek thousands of miles over, may take a year or more, but they find their home. Yeah. That goes back to Rupert Sheldrake's theory that they're, the connection is to a loved one or another creature to whom they're bonded, and they have the ability to find where that person, or I guess it could be another dog, if they're bonded, they have the ability to find that being.
Well, mine's already told me that when I get to the next place I'm going to, he'll be there to be a pain in the neck all over again. He's very, very commanding. All right, there's an invisible cord. Now, is this the connection between you and the animal, or anyone and an animal?
Well, Rupert Sheldrake's theory is that this invisible cord, which he refers to as morphogenic fields, which is a term from evolutionary biology. I won't go into the whole thing. That this cord exists or occurs between bonded beings. It could be between a group of the same species, like homing pigeons, for example, or it could be between a dog and his person. There was a case with a parrot that Sheldrake investigated who, seemed to be able to communicate with her owner telepathically. So if I understand your question correctly, I think Sheldrake would say it could be between any two beings if there's a bond or there's a connection of coming back to love, I guess, if you want to using that term.
I was going to add, it's not even a term. It's everything. There's so many different definitions to that word that it's
right.
Unbelievable. This world wouldn't be here if that word wasn't part of it. Whether it was spoken at that time or not, it was an energy, significantly an energy that existed when this earth existed.
Well, right. I mean, I believe it's the foundation of everything,
Yes.
that connection that...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, the other one, I tell you something. This was great. On the far side.
Well,
give us a little taste of that. I want to tell everybody too, and that I'm only putting the icing on the cake. It's up to you to go and get the link and go buy the cake.
Yeah, I don't want to tell every story.
No. You can. No. This would. If you told me what you're saying right now, Ned, I'd be very interested to get the rest of the information.
But as I've said, the messages and the reporting and the connection with Brio continued very much after his physical passing. That led me to do even more investigation with, Rupert Sheldrake and theories about, after-death communication and what other people had written about it. That, I learned that this after-death communication is not so uncommon, whether it's with humans or other animals, other species, and that really opened my eyes. And then I had really wanted Brio to reincarnate, because I am a believer in reincarnation, but I don't believe it always happens right away. But initially, of course, you still grieve the physical presence, no matter how much I had come to know that his spirit was there. I mean, initially, especially, of course, one wants the physical presence. Oh, sorry about that. So I was hoping that he would reincarnate right away, and I looked for a puppy, and eventually I was kind of led to my current dog's breeder, because she'd had a dog who was born on Brio's birthday. I didn't connect with that dog, but I ended up getting a puppy from another litter. But I don't believe that my dog who's with me here now, and whom I love a lot, is Brio reincarnated. He's a very different spirit. He's playful and just a different personality, which is fine. He's a wonderful dog for me now.
He may have a little help. You never
might
know. There could be a coach. I was told by several psychics and communicators that I've had on the show that our dog Bijou is she's a help dog. She helps other animal spirits come into the afterlife.
Oh.
She really, like anything from a run over squirrel to someone's cat, dog, whatever. That's her job on the other side. That's what she does.
Fascinating.
Meanwhile, sneezing in my ear too, but that's probably on the outside of the whole thing.
No, I think Brio may have helped. He may have, for God knows what, he could have led me to that breeder because of the birthday connection, and I ended up with this puppy who felt just right, and I no longer believe in coincidences, really. I mean, I think sort of things happen as they're meant to.
All right, I want to ask you about a couple things at the very, very end of this, and go again into the reincarnated part. But what I want to do is I want to tell people a little bit about you. How did you ever come into the, I don't know, mind spring business? You know, it's like your brain just goes bing. You know, it's like there's an idea. You're a generalist. You know what it's like that to get an idea and from nowhere, and then you just say that's it, and you start writing right away, and you'll be there for days. But how did you get the idea that to put all these thoughts so it's exquisite, exquisite. Let's just put it that way. You know, the way it's all put together. I mean, you can understand what the animal is telling you.
Well, I really I felt driven to do it, and I kind of believe that Brio wanted his messages to get out, and that I was sort of a channel. I mean, my experience with him had been so amazing, and I was so grateful for it, and he meant so much to me that I felt that what I had learned, and I wanted to share with others who might be open to developing closer connections with their animals and to, coming to new understanding of both who animals are and what, as I've said, what life and death itself and existence is all about.
Have you been visited in a dream?
By Brio?
Uh-huh.
Occasionally, and he comes to me in meditation. I get still, I feel his presence often. I mean, it's hard to describe, but when I really make that connection, it's very clear.
Oh, there you go. Well, see if you find a dog bone on your bed, then you know. It's like, hey, there he is. It's one of those things. Now, all right, before the book and everything else and that, and the writing and things and that, you do have a background in music. That was another thing that drew me to you, and that after I read the whole thing, I mean, because I started my music career started when I was 2. So I mean, it's been a long, and see where I wind up? I'm on the radio. But I'm not jumping on amplifiers and jumping all over a stage or looking at 60,000 faces and going, hi, how you doing? But it hasn't come to that. But what about yours?
Well, I hasten to add that I'm not a musician. I love music, and I grew up with music all around me all the time because my father and other members of my family were professional musicians, and I heard it in the home all the time. So I have a pretty good ear. I mean, I think I know when it's good or not good, but I'm not a professional musician. I mean, I played the piano, I played the cello, but as an amateur. So that's what but I love music. I mean, it's very, very important to me. So I had my first book was about music and its relationship to the body and the brain that was inspired by a paper my father had written about his theories about that relationship.
Oh, well, it's so much into the medicine side of things right now. It's unbelievable. It's harmonics. The actual frequencies that match the different organs that are in our body that can actually resonate cells to heal.
Absolutely. I mean, we come in wired for music. We really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, come on, let's face it. How many years now I stood in front of an amplifier that I wish I could, it's behind this wall. But, I mean, it's like, it's big. I mean, it used to be over my head, and I'm 6'1". So that's how big the amp was. But it was behind me, so I didn't lose my...
Brio adored music. When I would play music, especially Bach, Brio, he loved music. He would roll over.
Really?
And the minute Bach went on, he would roll over and put all 4 feet in the air. It just made him happy.
Wow, very classical dog.
Yeah.
my likes rock and roll. I mean, he likes Prince, The Who, Led Zeppelin. He listens to Robert Plant in the car while we're driving. He just sits there and he's got this big smile on his face, like, oh wow, I love this. Oh yeah, pumping in my ear. Here's a dog that's half blind, half deaf, and the louder I put it, the better he likes it.
Well, I'm sure he picks up on your energy too.
Certainly, absolutely. I mean, I'm crazy, so say. So I mean, that's the way that is. But you know what? People, here's one for you, and I don't know whether you've ever tried this. Fish understand you.
Well, I believe it. I mean, I haven't experienced it, but
people always wonder. Yeah, people always wonder why. If you got a goldfish in a bowl, and you've had him for a while, and you fed him and you've talked to him and everything, All of a sudden, don't feed him. Just talk to him. And he'll come right to the glass, and he'll look at you right in the eyes because he knows your voice, the frequency of your voice. Who you are comes through that like DNA coming right through your voice.
Wow.
And that fish actually is connected to you, and that's why they look at you. We used to have koi, which is the colored Japanese.
Right.
And they used to all come over in a group and just look at us when we talk to them. And then we'd say, okay, go ahead, get lost. And they'd swim away.
Fascinating.
Pretty weird. And, so the animal world is just as nuts as we are.
No, I mean, we're learning more and more all the time about other species and what they can do, and do things that we used to think were uniquely human. Like just within the last few years, there's been studies proving that, birds and for example, can synchronize to a beat, which used to be thought that only humans could do that, but that's not true. So, I mean, it's amazing.
Have you spoken to groups about this? That
I have, yeah.
That do feedback to you about their experiences?
They sometimes, yes. I mean, it's been a few years since I've talked about that book a lot, but people did give me experiences, yeah. I mean, I can't think of one right offhand right now, but...
Yeah, I was going to say that because a lot of times that people have these experiences that they didn't know they had until they heard you or I tell them this is what can happen, and they go, "That's what that was." I mean, it's crazy, but true. I mean, so many. I had a neighbor of mine, and that I told her, I said, the dog. I said, for some reason, I said, must really like you a lot and tell you when he wants to go out. And she goes, yeah, he goes by the door. I said, no, not that one. I said, the one that the dog actually turns around and says, "Oh no, it's time. You're late."
I'd love it, actually, if people wrote into the website, souldogbook.com, and tell me some of their experiences. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, right now on the blog and in the chat room, the links are there. You can click on it. You can go to the website right now. They're all live.
So I'd love to hear your stories.
They're there to use. And they're going to be, in fact, say it again a little bit slower, Ned, so that we understand that.
The website is www.souldogbook.com.
Yeah, because the video will be out, and it'll be on the video thing.
Soul, S-O-U-L, of course, souldogbook.com.
It's a soul dog, you know what I mean?
Right. So that would be fun. There are links there to buy on the website. So.
And the information, by the way, for those of you that do get the book, and you better all get it. I said so. The reason I'm saying this is because there's even pictures in the back of the book of you and the dog. And that dog is not only big, but it's cute. It's a cute little dog. And we looked at it, and I showed it to a couple of people in that already. I said, "Look at this dog." And they said, "All right, it's a dog." I said, "No, you fool. It's a poodle that has half a brain, not yours." Well,
they're great. There are better pictures and larger on the website. You can go to the gallery, and the portrait of Brio, the picture of Brio that's in the book, is much bigger on the website. In the gallery, you can really look into his fabulous eyes and see what myself and other people who knew him are talking about. A friend of mine said you can look into his eyes and see the pyramids. A great quote for your show.
See that? We also have someone that came on here too the other day that all the things, all of a sudden, the week before he was on the show, was something that said pyramids on it. So, go figure. I mean, so many people from around the world that are led into our radio station only because not only are you heard here, but you're also heard on the video. You're also heard on the archive, and the archive keeps going all year. So if anybody wants to know about a reincarnated dog that communicates with people, they just go into the archive and bam, that's it. They can download it. Now you can plug your phone right into your car, so you download it on your phone and play it in your car while you're driving. You can listen to the whole show, and they are good. They're more interested in half the stuff that's on the radio now, unless you want to hear about Trump this, Trump that. So
that's fantastic.
yeah.
Wow.
Plus, also, anybody that's listening right now, if you didn't before, anything that comes from Pyramid One, you can tune in, even the military listen to in Afghanistan. So that means that we are all over the place. Just like the dog, I was going to say.
That's wonderful.
So what's your next? I mean, seriously. I mean, this is a big step when you write something like this. As I said, the word love is all over this book. So what is the next thing that you're going to go?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd love to write more. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that will be, but something related to this subject matter. I hope. I'd love to do some video work, documentary or a fictionalized version of the story. I mean, there are a lot of possibilities. So I'm certainly open to other things happening with this subject matter. I would love to expand it, and as I said, if I hear other people's stories, who knows what may come of that. I'd just love to hear about all the experiences, because I know they're out there.
Well, we're all tools, in a way. We are teachers. Our experiences can teach millions, not thousands, not hundreds, not 5 people, not my next door neighbors. It's like millions of people. There are people out there that know this already. They just don't realize they know it already.
Exactly. Well, that's my hope, that this will make at least a little contribution to opening people up to seeing and understanding animals in a new way, and understanding all the big questions about life itself, that I was led to through my dog. So what an amazing story.
Well, people do relate, especially you, to Brio. Just the other day, that there was a story on about Italy, and they have stray dogs all over the place in Italy. They're running, I mean, just all over. And what IKEA did was it opened up one of its huge factory warehouses, in a sense, and they let the dogs in when it's freezing outside, so the dogs have a place in that to stay warm. They stay a lot of them on the carpets that are in front of couches that are in a place, and they lay down and they go to sleep right there.
I know, I saw that story. It's so fabulous. I mean, we should be doing that all over, all these poor dogs and kill shelters, and I mean,
we don't do it. We don't even do it for humans. Those people actually go as far as dogs. I mean, come on.
Oh no, it's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I mean, look at all the humans that are right now as we're talking, and we're nice and comfortable in our places. There are people that are sleeping on the ground out there somewhere, because nobody went and said, "Hey, come on, get out of here, let's go." Nobody got out of their skin to go and do it. Brio is probably, now I'm going to get back to the dog for a second, because the dog is the one that goes out and reaches out. You never would have connected with this dog if this dog didn't want you to. So she was the one, or he was the one, that actually turned around and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. Listen to me." And that's what this whole world needs. Those words to the world. And boy, we'd be awesome.
So well put. So
Yeah.
listen to your animals.
Yeah, because they are a little smarter than we are, no doubt at all. So again, what's that email address now for your website so that everybody knows?
The website is www.souldogbook.com.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you very, very much for being on the show with me. You were awesome, and it was an honor from my heart.
Oh, it was an honor for me. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful, and I thank you for asking me.
Well, there you go.
Great pleasure.
Until next time, Nick, the next book you have out, I want it. Okay? There you go. Maybe I'll even give you some audio for it, too, in the beginning.
Great.
All righty. Later now. Now, I just want to tell everybody here, listen, you heard us. You just heard us talk. We were talking about people and animals. Energy. On and on and on. We are love. Want to remember, or tell everybody to remember, write to Bob Charles Show at live.com. There, we will answer you. You got a question, you got a comment, you have a story, you have something that you want to tell Elena. This is what you do. Write to me. I can forward all the phone calls that you want to, all the letters, all the emails. Hey, I just put somebody else's address on and go, get out of here, zing, and it's out. I can do that. As I always say, God bless y'all. Bob Charles.